not about winning races so you can bank political capital for the next race. You win races so you can burn the hell out of that political capital to improve people's lives. That's what those folks know. That's what they knew.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
More Perfect Union reposted a clip of Tim Walz speaking at the National Association of Building Trades Unions the other day. And there were some really good highlights from that I wanted to share with you that kind of highlighted, there's a really kind of simpatico political philosophy there that it seems like at least Walz was espousing. I don't know, who knows about him, but he has a really cool thing on what to do, like when you win. But before that, he responds to how he reacted to attacks during his first campaign, accusing him of being too in the pocket of organized labor. Let's listen to this clip.
Join me in welcoming to the stage a true national leader advancing our cause, the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz.
I'm proud to be here with you today. Proud to stand with you, brothers and sisters, for the work you do, not just for union members, but for all workers. I'm proud to now have the privilege of being the governor of Minnesota, but I come about speaking in front of you honestly. For several decades, I was a dues-paying union member, so I stood in the seats where you're at. Probably should be a few more of us as governors and members of Congress, but I have to tell you, in my first campaign for Congress, in a debate, my opponent came at me and said, "Tim is in the pocket of organized labor." And I popped back up, I said, "That is a damn lie. I am the pocket." And it seemed to me that if he was attacking me for standing up for collective bargaining, for fair wages, for safe working conditions, for apprenticeship programs, for health care, and for retirement, I'd roll the dice on that thing and see how it went. And it worked out pretty well. So
that really is, that's pretty cool. That's a lot of times when you see Democrats get attacked from the right, their instinct is to say, "Oh, no, I'm not really all about that kind of stuff with the unions and the lefty types, But I think that what he was doing there was, really shows a good kind of path forward for if Democrats, or if some of them want to start, kind of leaning into the more kind of populist moment that we're in. And here's the clip that I alluded to earlier on what to do when you win, right? Because there's a lot of different kind of ideas about how people should maneuver within positions of power. And this is this one, more than any of them, was the most impressive and the most interesting to me. So let's play this clip, and I am interested in your thoughts on that, Adam.
Dan McConnell and the Minnesota Building Trades were there with me from the very beginning, from the absolute start of when we did this. Now, they weren't with me because of my boyish good looks and magnetic personality. They were with me because we had shared values, that we cared about the same things, that we were there to work for working people and to see that the power of what we could do was something to see. Because everyone told us, "Oh, you get this union member, teacher, National Guard guy or whatever, he's got the unions walking with him in parades. Good luck with that." Because there had been one other Democrat since 1892 in that congressional district, and we had a 12-year incumbent. But with the help of the building trades, we won that race. And we won that race as a means to an end. It's not about winning races so you can bank political capital for the next race. You win races so you can burn the hell out of that political capital to improve people's lives. That's what those folks know. That's what they knew.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
So I think that's, I think that's pretty impressive. And his record as governor in Minnesota really kind of speaks to some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with those comments you made. I think, you can critique the governor from the right as they're doing, but there are critiques from the left as well on various issues, and folks are going to have different opinions. But when it comes to those comments in particular, I do think he's right on. That is the point of winning, right? Is to produce something, and I do think that a lot of people who think about politics or get involved in politics, it is kind of a game. And part of that is because, well, politics is very much a spectacle in this country. But you don't, that's not what drives me or, anyone I know, to get involved in politics, right? It's to make a difference. It's to try to make things better for our future. And, yeah, I think it is important that you have officials who can recognize that if they win, their job is to use that win to produce for their constituents. And who are constituents? Well, the vast majority of working class. Okay, so we make up the majority. So yeah, I do appreciate that philosophy. And, again, I'm sure there are folks in Minnesota who have a lot more knowledge on the ins and outs of his record as governor. There's certainly some good things that stand out. There's some things that, make me scratch my head. I'm not as big a fan of, but, compared to what we have down here in the South, it's such a drastic difference. And I do appreciate that he comes from a public school teaching background as a former high school history teacher as well. I definitely appreciate that. My understanding is he was a football coach and was also sponsor of the Gay Straight Alliance, as he was like the teacher sponsor of that, while also the football coach, which is pretty cool, honestly, because I've met some real Neanderthals who are football coaches down here who would not do that. So, yeah, I think for some of those reasons, I think it was a pretty popular pick for VP, and it seems to be, getting a lot of labor folks excited. It seems like he's had a pretty good relationship with organized labor and, throughout his tenure. My understanding is he was a pretty moderate guy in Congress, but has had a pretty progressive legislature in Minnesota and has, mostly not stood in their way. And so, it seems like, in a lot of ways, he checks boxes, right? Because he can appeal to folks who are more progressive and folks who are more moderate and not particularly offend too many of them. There are a lot of big issues that, the Kamala Harris campaign is going to have to tackle, which I don't think want to, and they're going to have to talk about, and it's going to be divisive. But yeah, I do appreciate those comments he made to NAP2 and totally agree. It's not just about the winning, and a lot of politicians, that's really what it's about. And it's up to us to make sure that we remind them, no, if we helped put you in office, it was for a reason. It was to produce. It was to advance our interests, to have a bigger voice in state or local or federal policy, and it was to get some policy changes that actually make our lives better, not worse. And we put you there to keep things from getting worse and to try to make things better. And damn it, that's what you better do. And we're going to hold you accountable to that.
Right. And he talked about some of his accomplishments as governor. Let's play this clip.
And when we were able to win the election in Minnesota in 2022, where we weren't supposed to, we did something we hadn't done in decades and only a few times. We won a pro-union majority in the House and Senate and in this governor. Now, so we got to work. I know that some of you come from states that you have to spend all your time fighting back right-to-work legislation and playing goalie. Now, we're a hockey state, but it's bad politics for me. I'm not a hockey guy. I'm a football guy, and I like to go on offense. So I said, we're not going to play defense. We're not going to be satisfied for saying, oh, Minnesota will never be a right-to-work state. Well, that's a given. What Minnesota was going to do is strengthen our right to collectively bargain. Minnesota was going to ban that practice of having those captive anti-union meetings. You go to jail now if you do that in Minnesota because you can't intimidate people. So, That's why those people walked in those parades. We have the strongest wage theft laws in the country, and we got an attorney general that enforces them. As you heard, we passed the largest infrastructure acts in Minnesota. We made sure that every single green energy job we're going to do is going to be a good union job to put that steel in the ground. We continue to run and run and run on making these things happen. And as you heard from President McGarvey, we had a hell of a partner in Joe Biden.
That's a pretty impressive list of accomplishments, I think.
Yeah.
Jail time for union busters? That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, compared to what we experienced down here in the South, it's quite a contrast. And, again, I know folks in Minnesota are going to have a lot more nuanced view on it. And, but I am curious if this is a signal that the influence of organized labor has grown within kind of the mainstream Democratic Party. I don't know. I think it's probably too early to tell that, because a lot of what we're talking about is very symbolic and, well, not his record in Minnesota, to be clear, but in terms of just picking a running mate and, making speeches on the campaign trail, right? That's not the same as producing material, concrete results. So maybe it's too early to speculate too much about that. But, that's something that is on my mind. I'm wondering, is the Democratic Party going to try to pivot more to working class people? They have really pivoted away from working class people over the last several decades. They really embraced neoliberalism in the wake of Reagan, and have, really built a base of middle class support. Educated middle class support, alongside their own, factions of billionaires and millionaires who support them, those who don't support the Republicans. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But, from down here in Alabama, hell, it would be really great, to see some of these kind of laws even being entertained seriously. And that's something that's very frustrating for me as a labor union activist here in the state, is that most of these big wins we're seeing in blue states like Minnesota aren't even being brought up for debate down here, right? There's no one even running messaging bills to say, hey, this is a good idea that Minnesota has implemented. We should talk about it. It's not even getting that far, right? Because we don't have, from what I can tell, a segment of legislators who are very adamant about being pro-labor and supporting unions. If they're out there in the Alabama legislature, please make yourself known. We would love to work with you and give you some ideas and help you live up to that. But right now, I'm not really seeing it, and so that's frustrating.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.
Which side are you on?